What's up everyone, my name is Rosendo, welcome back to my channel, and we are back with another video, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about a music festival coming up, because right around the corner is EDC Las Vegas 2025, a festival that I'm not going to, but I actually went to EDC 2024, which was actually right around the time I started posting YouTube videos. I remember because I recorded a few things regarding EDC 2024, but they're just kind of stored somewhere. That's beside the point, I'm rambling again. The point is, a year ago, I pretty much told myself that when EDC was rolling around, I would make a kind of an EDC guide video. Now, I've not gone to EDC that many times. I've gone once, and this probably won't be as complete of a guide as if you watched a guide of someone or read an article of someone who's gone 5, 20, 10, 20 times or whatever. But I do want to share my experience, hopefully just to give you guys a little bit of insights and maybe just to get you guys a little bit more excited for EDC. I know that's what I would do, a month or two leading into EDC, I'd watch videos of people talking about their experience to get myself excited, to get myself prepared, and to look forward to the experience. So that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the experience, about some things you can expect, and how to get the most out of it. Not in a complete way because, again, I've only gone once, but in just kind of an overall way. Now, real quick, before we do that, I would just like to give a shout out to today's sponsor, which is there's no sponsor for today's video. I'm the sponsor. I just wanted to take this opportunity to share something that I actually started posting beats for sale on Airbit. Now, this is something I've been wanting to share for a while because if you wanted to support me and if you wanted to grab a beat for yourself, you can check out my store on Airbit. Now, my idea for these beats has mainly been to target kind of other content creators or people who just want background music for any sorts of videos, whether it's a school project, whether it's a video they're making for YouTube or shorts or whatever. So these are not beats that, are meant to be used in songs. I guess you could if you really wanted to, but these are not beats that are meant to be used in songs. They're meant to be more ambient music, background music for kind of setting the scene. I know a lot of music producers try to monetize in different ways, such as sample packs or tours or merch or mixing and mastering services. And I could go down that route, but this is something that I actually feel pretty accomplished in, because I've always liked how music can be used to accomplish a lot of things, especially setting an environment or setting a scene. So having beats available for people to use in their videos to just trying to kind of fill in the gaps and try to get a little bit more creative is something that I really like. That's an idea that I really like. So again, this is really meant to be targeted towards other content creators. If you are a content creator, if you know a content creator, if anyone's looking for background music in their videos or some sort of beat. Again, they're kind of, some of them are like beats, some of them are a little bit more ambient. They're like instrumental tracks that are meant to be used in the background of videos. So if that sounds like your thing, if you know someone who could use that, if you want to support this channel, go check out my store on Airbit. I'm going to be uploading more beats. There's only a few on there right now, but I'm trying to get kind of a good variety of different moods and different environments so that there can be something out there for everyone. But again, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. So without further ado, let's talk about EDC. Now, EDC Las Vegas is the biggest music festival I've been to. It's probably one of the biggest around. I mean, you have like Tomorrowland. I'm sure you have another few in other countries that I'm not too familiar with, but EDC is definitely a huge one. It's definitely probably the biggest in North America, and it's a huge name. I mean, Insomniac is such a big brand that EDC it's a major festival. Now, I've been to my small share of festivals. I'm from the Washington, D.C. area, so there's right now one local one. In the past, there have been 2 local ones, but again, EDC is definitely the biggest festival I went to. It was my first time going in 2024. I was actually a solo traveler. Now, say what you want about solo travelers and solo ravers. I love the experience. I like kind of doing things on my own. I mean, I'm here just talking to a camera in front of you all, just sharing videos, talking about my videos. But again, I solo traveled. I loved it. That doesn't mean you should solo travel. I'm just sharing my experience as a solo traveler, just so you're aware. Real quick, before we do that though, I'm going to be sharing a few pieces of general festival advice at the end of the video. So first, I'm going to talk about specifically EDC Las Vegas. And at the end, I'm going to be sharing some general festival recommendations. So if it's your first festival, first of all, congratulations. But if it's your first music festival, first EDM music festival, I'm going to talk broadly about electronic music festivals at the end with some general guidelines that should apply to all of them. So if you're interested in that, make sure to watch that if it's your first festival. But right now I'm going to talk specifically about EDC. Now, the experience itself was awesome. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I still look back to it, just in my day-to-day life. I think back and think, man, that was such a great time. I want to go back. And obviously, if you're going right now, it's the end of March, so you're going in about a month and a few weeks. You're already pretty excited. You already know what to expect. I'm assuming you've already made the accommodations. And of course, you're probably looking forward to a music festival that goes from sunset to sunrise. That's right. So you're going to be partying in the middle of the night. So you're already probably getting an idea in your head of how the trip's going to go. Now, you'll most likely be there for 3 days or maybe less, but there's a lot to look forward to and you definitely want to get the most out of the experience. Now, I won't be talking specifically about DJs or sets to watch in this festival, but I'll throw that in as a bonus again near the end for anyone who's interested in a little bit of my opinion on who you definitely want to see. So what are a few things to know about EDC before you go? First of all, let's talk about the first thing you'll deal with, which is obviously travel. Again, I'm assuming by now you have some sort of travel accommodations or plans, whether it be using the shuttle, whether it be a rideshare, whether it be renting a car, or you could take a helicopter if you really wanted to. But again, expect the travel to be pretty packed depending on where you're coming from. Now, I will say, based off my experience, the travel there is actually not that bad, and that'll be the case for most festivals. For most festivals, the way there isn't all that bad because people can get there at all times. Now, I'm not the type of person to show up to a music festival at 11 or 12 or right in the middle, so I can't speak about that time. There's definitely peak hours of arriving to the festival. I don't know what they are. I'm assuming they're around probably sunset or a little bit after sunset when it's already dark. But I showed up a little bit after the gates open for 2 of the days, and again, it's actually not that bad. The way there's not that bad because people can show up pretty much through any stretch of time. I think the latest you can show up is like 12 or 1 or 2 or something. So it probably gets packed a little bit more later, closer to maybe 11 if I had to guess, after the sun's down. But the way there, if you go early, it's actually not that bad. Now, leaving any festival will always be the hard part, so definitely keep that in mind. If you stay the entire time and you leave at sunrise, it's going to take a long time to get out. That's for sure. In my case, I took the shuttles. There was one day I left kind of in the middle of the night, maybe like 3 or 4, and it wasn't that bad. On the last day, I left right when the doors opened for departure, so I left as soon as possible, and it also wasn't that bad. And on one of the days, I stayed the entire time, and leaving was definitely rough. It takes a long time to get out. I'm talking from the shuttles here. It takes a long time to get out, and the travel is, it's the travel. There's going to be a lot of cars leaving. So again, just keep that in mind. There's definitely artists you want to see. There's definitely an artist that you want to be there before, so plan accordingly. Now let's talk about the actual festival itself. 3 days of sunset to sunrise electronic music. There's a lot you're going to want to see. So again, get those lineups ready, get the set by set times ready, and start kind of planning what you want to do. Run it by your friends, run it by your group or whoever, so you can all kind of get an idea where you're going to be, because this is something I'm going to mention in the end again, but I'll mention it now because it's so important. There will be no signal. If you've been to music festivals before, you know there's no signal. You're most likely not going to be able to communicate with anyone there. So again, try to get an idea going. It's a very big place. It's a very big raceway. There's so many stages that coordinating will be really hard if you're not doing it through phone or if you don't do it in advance. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, because everyone always likes to say that EDC gets very oversold and very packed. I personally can't say how oversold it is, but it's definitely packed. I don't know if that's overselling or if it's just selling at the normal amount, but it will be packed. So keep that in mind. Big artists at the big stages, there's going to be a wave of people. And if you want to go to the front, you better commit to a 10 or 15 minute journey of being very kind and saying excuse me while trying to go through people. And don't forget that if you're at the front and you need to get out, you're going to be in an even worse position to say another 10 or 15 minutes of saying excuse me to get out of there. So again, it will be very packed. Expect there to be a lot of people. I mean, some of these stages can go way, way back and you're watching from a distance, and to get close, it would be a nightmare. So keep that in mind. But other than that, there's a lot to explore in the festival. There's a lot to look forward to. The raceway is such a big place, and the stages are kind of more or less set around the edges, so that in the middle, there's all sorts of things. There's all sorts of attractions, and there's so many things that you want to see and you don't want to miss. With some of the stages being very far apart from one another, going through the middle and just kind of checking things out is usually a good idea when you have some time to kill. There's all sorts of vendors, all sorts of attractions, and even just walking around in such a highly decorated and, to some extent, sense overloading area can be pretty cool, especially at night. But again, there's a lot of decorations, a lot of lighting, a lot of cool production, so take some time to, go on some side quests and, of course, communicate with your friend group if you're doing that. Or if you're a solo traveler, do whatever you want. That's the joy of it. But take your time to go on some side quests. Just go explore, take a walk, look at the things around you, because there's a lot to see and a lot that you don't want to miss. Now, are some of these things life-changing and you definitely need to see or else you won't get the most out of the festival? No. But when you have, a long night of raving ahead of you, sometimes it's good to just take a break, walk around, and, do some things that aren't just looking at a stage the entire time and dancing with your friends. Because even though that's fun, sometimes you need a break from all that if you're going to be doing it, especially all night. If you're getting there, 11 or 12, it might not be the worst thing in the world. But if you're there from sunset, maybe, 6, 7 p.m., I think 7 p.m. or so, all the way to 5 a.m., it's probably a good idea at some point to take a break. Speaking of taking a break, all sorts of places you can kind of walk around to. The biggest thing, don't forget, is that at least in 2024, and I'm assuming in the years in the past, in front of the Cosmic Meadow stage, which is one of the bigger stages, there are bleachers. So that's a perfect place if you want to catch a set, but if you want to sit down for a bit. Again, if you're there for the whole time, there's probably going to be a time where you're going to want to sit down, and Cosmic Meadow is the perfect place to sit down and catch a set at the same time. But again, that's the general overview. Not too many specific things I want to say because it really just depends on your individual taste. But, come prepared, get to know where the restrooms are, get to know where the hydration stations are, and food is definitely something you're going to want to take into consideration at one point or another. So, of course, remember that when you're in the raceway, the prices will get hiked. You're not going to have a lot of great options, but I usually find that in most festivals, there's at least one good option. Of course, you have your standard fried foods, and you have your kind of rite of passage chicken fingers that everyone will go to at one point or another. But if you're going to be there for a long time, fuel yourself. Fuel yourself before, fuel yourself during, and fuel yourself at any point that you need to. And keep in mind that this is a big place with a lot of people. So going from one place to another and maybe waiting in line for something is gonna take a while. If you have 15 minutes to kill between a set, you probably won't be able to get much done. So if you want to take a break to, go to the restroom, fill up your hydration pack, maybe check out some merch, maybe get some food, given that it's the big place and that there's going to be a lot of people also waiting in line, you're going to be there a while. So just keep that in mind, that if you're trying to explore, do things in between sets, take that into consideration. It's not going to be a quick 5-minute trip, there and back. So don't forget that. Now, those are a little bit of the general recommendations that I have, but again, it depends from person to person. So now I just want to talk about my experience and some of the things that I really liked. So hopefully you guys can get maybe a little bit more excited or get a little bit more insight into what the festival is like. So I'm an early arriver. I like to show up early. I like to make sure that when there's a set I want to see, I get there before then. Usually the first set I want to see isn't at 12 or 11. It's usually at 7 or 8 because I like to see a lot of artists. So I got there early, pretty much right at sunset or before sunset. And from my experience, it was a great festival. Like I said, I still look back to it on this day, and I definitely want to go back at some point. But seeing all these artists all there at once is really a great experience for you to explore new genres. I would actually say EDC is pretty much the festival that got me into exploring new things and checking out new artists, because you're going to be there for such a long time, or at least in my case, I was there for such a long time, that you have a lot of time to kill. There's no harm in stopping by a stage for 15 minutes when you're going from one place to another. I really like my days to be scheduled and think, hey, I want to catch this set at this time and this set at this time, but also like there to be a break in the middle, maybe a 1 hour, 2 hour break in between sets where there's no DJ that I really want to see, so I can walk around, I can explore, I can do any of the things that I mentioned earlier, but also I can see some new sets. I can listen to some new music, I can go to stages that I wouldn't normally go to, and I can just kind of experience what electronic music has to offer. So real quick overview on my trip. On day one, I think I arrived later than I had the other days. I arrived around 9 p.m. And again, I got anywhere from 9 to 3 or 9 to 4 of raving, of just checking out some DJs that I really wanted to see. I would say the second day is probably my main day. That was the day that I wanted to be there the longest, that I wanted to pretty much do everything that I could. That day I got there a little bit before sunset. I got there actually pretty early. There weren't a lot of people there. And I just saw so many stages. And actually my goal that day was just to stop by at every stage at one point. And I'm pretty sure I did. And on that second day, I was there the entire time. I was there for all the way till sunrise. And it was a very, very fun day. So that was my full day of exploring. And again, I really liked that day, especially as a solo traveler. I mentioned you can kind of go wherever you want, whenever you want, without having to worry about meeting up with anyone, or without having to worry about who someone else might want to see or what stage someone else might want to go to. You don't even have to worry about some of the small things, like if someone else needs to go to the restroom but you don't, if someone else wants to get some food, if someone else wants to be in the back but you want to be in the front, things like that. So again, that day I really explored. I really tried to catch a lot of sets and a lot of artists and a lot of stages. And that was also my time to do one of the things that I really like to do, which I'm going to recommend to you all, but you don't have to follow this, which is, again, see some artists that you've never seen before, drop by some stages you've never seen before, and even support some local artists. I talked about before how there's a lot of places you want to check out, a lot of attractions you want to see. And as a small artist myself, when I had time to kill, I enjoyed going to see some of these sets that aren't even stages. There's all sorts of pop-ups and places that you could go to in EDC. Some of the more memorable ones are the Beatbox Art Car that I'm pretty sure was there, or it could have been some other small stage that I can't remember. There was a bar that just felt like a normal bar that had a local DJ playing. I'm assuming it was some sort of local DJ. And in the middle, I found this kind of random small room that kind of also felt like a club. It's probably no bigger than like a classroom. And there's a DJ playing there and everyone's in there dancing. So again, two things I want to say about that. Number one, as a small artist, it's nice to support other small artists. I can't say for sure, if they were local, if they were big names, if they were small names. They're definitely not big names. They're not names that are going to be playing on, any of these big stages. So I have to assume they're either some sort of local artists that Insomniac has already worked with, or some international artists have a really small following. My best guess is that they're local, but I can't say for sure. And second thing I want to say is the nice thing about these is that the people who are there watching these DJs and listening to these DJs, they're not there for the music, because they could be producers with some small tracks. But I'm willing to bet that more often than not, they're not playing their own music. They're playing just kind of music that they found and music that they like. So the nice thing about some of these smaller stages, I'm calling them stages even though they're not stages, but the nice thing about some of these smaller stages is that anyone who's there isn't there to see a certain artist or listen to certain songs or, just go for whatever the artist has to offer. They're there to just have a good time. And usually they're just people there dancing all the time because they're just there for the music. Again, they're not there for, I really want to see this big artist right here. They're just there to have a good time. They're there to dance. They're there to hang out. And it's probably one of the more fun places to be because, again, if someone's there, they're there just to have a good time. So those are really fun places to be, especially if you want to take a break from these places and just have something a little bit more intimate. Now, my third day was a short day. I was kind of drained from the day before, but I also knew I had to leave on Monday. I don't really regret that decision that much because in hindsight, I didn't really know any better. And you know what? It was what it was. I do think that now I would stay there for a third day just to have that option. Again, I don't really regret not staying for any longer, but now I would like to have the option of staying for longer if I wanted to. So on the third day, I left pretty early. I was still there before sunset, and I caught some of my favorite sets that day. I didn't do all that much exploring. I was just there for some music. I was already a little bit tired from the previous days. But it was still a great time. And again, I caught some of my favorite artists there. But again, if I could do it again, it would have been nice just to have the option to stay longer if I wanted to. And before we move on, again, just a real quick overview, a lot of cool things to see. It pretty much takes place exclusively at night. Anyone who's been to other festivals knows that when it gets dark, everything just gets super cool. A lot of nice lights, a lot of great production. So the fact that EDC takes place almost entirely at night, it's definitely going to be an experience to look forward to. A lot of colors, a lot of music, a lot of lights, a lot of stages, a lot of artists, a lot of things to see. Definitely get excited. All right, now let's move on to some general music festival recommendations. I'm just going to talk about the basic ones here. So if you've been to a lot of festivals, this is probably not going to be new to you. You can skip this part. But if it's your first one, or if you don't know a lot about festivals, definitely check this out, because there's some things that you probably definitely want to do if it's your first time. So there's two obvious and major ones. Number one, hearing protection. Don't skip this part. If you haven't gone to a festival before, hearing protection is so important. My very first festival, I didn't have earplugs. Was it the end of the world? No. Would it be the end of the world if I did that every single time? Absolutely. It's just a good idea. Get some hearing protection. Earplugs are your best friend. You do not want to be exposed to that loud music and such heavy bass for that long. Get some hearing protection. Okay, now I hope I got my point across, but let's talk about that a little bit more. Yeah, earplugs are a really good idea. They're a fantastic idea. You want to have some earplugs with you. You're going to be listening to music for a very long time. A lot of highs, a lot of lows, a lot of mids, pretty much all the frequencies, but the bass will definitely add up. Big sound systems we're talking about here. Hearing protection is a very, very, very good idea. I would say it's a non-negotiable. Protect your ears, people. So that's pretty much essential number one. First most important thing is, hey, if you've never been to a festival before and maybe you didn't even think about hearing protection, or you think, hey, is it that important? It's very important. I would definitely recommend investing in a good quality pair of earplugs. All right, number two, let's talk about the other important one, because I don't know how common this is in other festivals, but in EDM music festivals, it is very, very common. Hydration packs. Hydration packs are your best friend. I didn't know that was a thing when I went to my first music festival, when I went to Moonrise. Yeah, hydration packs are awesome. There's just water refill stations just scattered around the raceway. So it's extremely common for people to bring backpacks with hydration packs attached to them. And at any point, you just go, you show up to the venue, you fill up your hydration pack, and if it gets empty, you fill it up again. Staying hydrated is very important. Don't ignore that either. If you're going to be drinking, or even if you're just going to be dancing around and standing around and walking from place to place all day, hydration is very important. But yeah, hydration packs are just totally a thing. People will bring backpacks with hydration bags attached to them, and you can just have water pretty much with you wherever you go. I would say those are kind of my two essential music festival items: earplugs and a hydration pack. They're just going to save your life, really. All right, and now that we got the essentials out of the way, let's just talk about some general music festival things that you probably want to know. Number one, again, it's going to be very crowded. You're going to be in a sea of people, so don't be surprised if maybe on some stages you get to get a little bit closer, and some you need to be a little bit further back. It's up to you guys ultimately whether what you want to do, but expect it to be crowded. Expect there to be a lot of people, and expect to be standing up a lot. I've never brought a portable chair with me to music festivals, but I think this would have been a good one too. I might even add that as a recommendation. Definitely on the second day I was in need of one because I was there for so long. So that's something you'll see people bring with them. Portable chairs, it might be a good idea. And if you want to sit down somewhere, of course, be considerate. Don't just plop it in the middle of a crowd and think that everyone's just going to want to work around you. But if you ever need to take a step, to the side, if you ever need to go to the very back, if you're ever in the middle of the place and you just need to sit down for a bit where it's not crowded, might be a good idea. Doing things like staying hydrated and staying cool are important. Some people might bring fans with them. Some people might bring cover-ups, aka pashminas, just to cover them from the sun. In EDC, it's mostly at night, so it might not be the most important thing in the world. But if you're going to another festival that's during the day, it's probably a good idea. And things like sunglasses and hat and sunscreen, but again, it doesn't really apply to EDC. Now, the third thing that I definitely want to mention is, as I mentioned earlier, expect there to be no signal. Just expect that to be a thing. If you plan on texting your friends, even if you plan on ordering ride shares, I don't know how hard that is. I didn't have to do ride shares when I went, but when I go to other music festivals, for example, when I went to Moonrise, getting a ride share out of there is extremely hard. So again, just expect that the norm will be there will be no signal. So communicate with your friends, communicate with whoever you need to communicate with beforehand. Hey, if we're going to split apart, we definitely want to meet up at some place at some time. Things like that. So stay together. Try not to get separated. Definitely expect there not to be signal. Just assume that you will not be able to text anyone. Speaking of which, you might get lucky and be able to send a text out every once in a while. Pretty common practice in music festivals to timestamp your text. So if you send a text at, let's say, 2 a.m., it's a good idea to add at the end of the message 2 a.m., just in case it gets delivered 30 minutes or an hour later. So if at 2 a.m. you send, hey, I'm heading to the bathroom, meet me there, but it doesn't get delivered until 2:30, there's going to be some miscommunications. So again, assume no signal, plan accordingly. Now, if I'm forgetting anything, if there's anything else you wish you would have known before your first music festival or your first EDC, drop it in the comments so everyone else can check it out. All right, and finally for the last section, why don't we take a look at the lineup together, because I haven't really scrutinized it. I obviously took a look at it when it got released, but I don't really kind of go name by name and see who to be excited for. So together, we're all just going to go through this lineup, and I'll give you guys a little bit of my recommendations if you guys are interested. If not, of course, you can skip this part if you haven't already. But let's go through it together. All right, so let's see what we got on Friday. Now, obviously, I don't know all of these names. It would be nice if I did, but I'm just going to go through the ones that I would definitely want to check out, or at least some of the names I know. For example, I've never seen Alesso. If there's no other sets conflicting at that time, I'd probably check Alesso out. Andromatic, I would definitely want to see if you're a fan of drum and bass. I believe Andy C is also drum and bass. And there's a few names in here. Armin van Helden might be nice. Armin Hammer, I've never seen. This could be a good one if I've never seen them before. I want to recommend the ones that I have seen, so I can definitely kind of give some recommendations for those. But A, every set will be different. And B, I don't really want to recommend the artists that I like because you never know what their DJ sets will be like. You never know what music they play. And you never know what to expect, really. So I'll be talking about the artists that I like, but I'll also definitely be recommending the ones that I have seen before that I know are good. So again, I've never seen Andromatic or Armin van Hammer, but if I were going, I would check them out. That's pretty much how I'm going to break this section out. These are the ones that, hey, depending on the set times, I'd probably check this artist out. For example, Biscuits. If you're in a house, I would probably want to check Biscuit out. There's a few names here that I recognize, but I don't really know too well. Crank That might be a good set. Dioro and Friends, Disco Dom by Debreski. Maybe that one. Here we have DJ Snake Dom Dalla. I saw Dom Dalla at Moonrise. That might have to be one of my favorite sets of all time. I'm not going to say the set was one of the best, but I was there with my friends and it wasn't all that crowded. We were close to the front. That was one of the most fun sets I've been to. That's a recognizable one for sure. So again, was Dom Dalla's set life-changing? Not really, but I had a lot of fun. So I definitely say Dom Dalla was a good one. Again, some good names here, but I don't know them too well to recommend them or not. DJ Snake, obviously. Again, some names that I don't know too well, whether or not I check out. These are also names that I would probably want to see. That's the other thing. Sometimes I just like knowing an artist's song or two, and if I don't have nothing else to do, I like checking them out because you never know what you're going to discover. Real quick side note, that's actually how I saw probably one of my favorite sets of all time, Coven at EDC on the third day, EDC Vegas 2024. I knew 1 or 2 or 3 of Coven's songs, and I was in the mood for some drum and bass, and that was definitely my favorite set of the entire trip, and it's now up there on one of my favorite sets of all time. So if you want to check out some new music, and there's an artist that you know 1 or 2 of their songs, and you have no expectations of, oh, they're going to play those songs and everything is going to be perfect. If you have no expectations, if you're just, have an open mind and you're just there to have a good time, you can probably discover some really cool artists. For example, I only know 1 or 2 Gorgon City songs, but maybe I check them out. You never know what you can discover. That's how I got to Coven, and it was one of my favorite sets. Shout out Coven. But what else do we have? Again, I don't know some of these names actually. Matrodo was one of my favorite sets I've seen, but that was also kind of at a club setting. It wasn't a festival setting. So that's another one of my favorite sets of all time. Not because the set itself was amazing, but I was there with my friends. I had a really good time. That was a good one. Max Styler might be a good one as well. But I had a really fun time at Matrodo at a club in DC. Nightmare I've seen. That's a good one. I don't think Slander's on here. But look, Slander BTB Nightmare. I'll get to that in a second. Nightmare I've seen with Slander, so I've actually never seen Nightmare individually. Riot 10 is actually on my to-do list on one of the artists that I want to see. Sarah Landry, man. I'm not going to say anything about Sarah Landry because I'm going to talk quite a bit about Sarah Landry actually in my next video. I don't know if it'll be my next video. I don't know if it'll be my next video or the video after that one. But I'm going to talk quite a bit. I already know what the video is. There's going to be a video soon where I talk quite a bit about Sarah Landry. The TLDR is I would check the set out. Sullivan King I saw kind of half of with my friends, and it was a good set, but that was awkward because they weren't into dubstep and I was. But I'm sure Sullivan King puts on a great set. Trivecta, that's an interesting one. I've seen Trivecta twice. Once at a kind of a venue in DC and once at a festival. The first time I saw Trivecta, fantastic. Second time I saw him, it was like an average set. It was an okay set, good set. I'm still a big Trivecta fan. But if you like Trivecta, I'd probably check a set out. And that about wraps up the Friday. Again, I know most of these names. I've seen Tiesto before, but I'm not too hard pressed to see him again. You can probably check them out. But again, a lot of names I don't recognize and a lot of names that I recognize, but I don't really know too much about their music, if anything. All right, Saturday. I've never seen Afrojack. I maybe want to see Afrojack one day. I'd want to cross that off. What else do we have here? Chase and Status. I'd probably see them. It depends. Sometimes I get carried away with drum and bass. So I saw, who did I see? I saw Worship on the second day. The Worship artists actually closed. But I don't know who they consist of. I thought Jason Status was on here. Subfocus Dimension, Culture Shock in 1991. Okay, so no, they're not on there. So I've not seen Jason Status, so I'd probably want to see them then. Dimension's on here. Again, I saw Dimension in Worship. I probably want to see Dimension. Again, there's just so much drum and bass to pick from that I wouldn't want to make it all drum and bass. I mean, I already have Andromatic, Dimension, and Chase and Status on here, and I'm assuming I'm going to add more, so I would probably see all of them if there's no conflicting times. Eric Prydz. I've only heard good things. I don't know much about his music, but I do think there's the universe where, or not even a universe, I do think down the line I'm going to get into Eric Prydz. I've seen enough of his videos to know that I probably like his music, and I've seen enough of his videos to know that I think he puts on a very, very good production set. Probably worth checking out. I've seen Fisher, good time. Hugo's probably a good time. Again, another more drum and bass over here. Millennium BTB Slander. Oh, that's interesting. This might be an interesting one just for kind of the significance of it, because I don't know. I'd probably see this. I've seen both Millennium and Slander, so it's hard to say. I don't even know what a set BTB would look like. Special guest, Jessica Oddfred BTB Lays. Me personally, I wouldn't miss this set for the world. I don't watch a lot of dubstep sets, so this is definitely one I would add on my to-do list. Jessica Oddfred, Mexican, Lays, a Washington, D.C. artist that I'm pretty sure is from the area I'm from. I mean, this is this is all biased, by the way. I have no clue how good their music or their sets actually is, but to check out new things and to just support both these artists, I would not miss this for the world. Man, now I want to go. Cascade, I've never seen. Level Up, I saw with Subtronics, BTB, and Moonrise. All these names right here are actually probably worth seeing if you like their music, but I don't really know enough about them. Cascade, I don't know much about, but I know him. Mao P, Medusa, they're all probably good sets. Netsky, they're all probably good sets, but I don't know enough about them to recommend them or not. Odd Mob, things like that. Rez I saw once. I'm a fan of mid-tempo. I actually had a lot of fun with Rez's set. It was near the end, so I was kind of drained, and I was kind of in the back, but I enjoyed it. I think I had a good time. I think Rez would be good, worth seeing again. Again, a lot of names I recognize, but nothing I want to dive too deep into. Things again, a lot of good names: Sudden Death, Tornfoot, Vintage Culture, Chami, Mala. This actually might be worth seeing. I can see this being a good set, but I don't know enough about it. I can see this being a good set. It's probably one of those sets that you have to see to know if it's good or not, but this could be a good one. And finally, we're on Sunday. Again, some big names here. I've never seen Armin van Buuren. I want to see him at one point. BTSM, I've only heard good things about, but I actually don't know anything about them, but I've heard they put on a pretty good show. Crank That BTB Tape B. This one's actually probably a pretty good one to check out if you're into bass. Again, you got Disco Lines, Dombreski. You got your fix of house. Excision, I've seen once. Fantastic production. Would I see him again? I don't know. I like to check out my fair share of dubstep artists. That's why that's my thing with certain genres when I'm not too big on the artist, but I like the genre. I like to get a variety, right? I like to get my variety, so I don't know if I would see Excision again, but when I saw him, great show. Inzo, I've never seen, might be worth checking out. James Hype, hot take here. James Hype would probably be better to see in a club setting than a festival setting. I'm curious to see if you guys agree or not. Because I've seen the videos of he puts on in the club setting and they're awesome. And I saw him in a festival setting and I just feel like it was not the same. Granted, it was daytime and granted I was in the middle of a big crowd, but I do think James Hype would be better in a kind of a club setting than a festival setting. But you guys can let me know. Like Youth, I would actually really love to see live. I'm really getting into melodic house. Some names here that I think would be really nice that I don't know too much about, but I think they would probably be really good sets if you know more about their music than I do. I look at that. We go from Matroda and Friends to just Matroda. So there you go if you want to check it out. Again, I do think house is better in a kind of a smaller setting. So let me know what you guys think about whether or not house would be better in a club setting than in a festival setting. More names that I know a lot about. Looks like we got Odd Mob twice. More names that I recognize, but I don't know too much about. Slander, BTB, Nightmare. This is definitely the one I wanted to talk about. Side piece, all this stuff over here. Tiesto, Sunrise, Walker and Royce, cool stuff. Yeah. So last thing I'll say here, Slander, BTB, Nightmare. This is also one of my favorite sets. Probably not at the top 5, but maybe like top 10. That I've seen. Very, very fun set. And now I mentioned I was going to mention something about that because I see Nightmare on here and Nightmare BTB Slander. Real quick, I know Slander's music tends to fall in that whole cry-banging universe that, Millennium and Dabin fans tend to really like. When I saw Slander at EDC 2024, I had a great time. But I'd already seen Slander BTB Nightmare before, so I was kind of expecting bass music. I'm pretty sure a lot of people at EDC 2024 were really disappointed with Slander's set because they expected it to be a little bit more crybangy, a little bit more dabbiny. And that's fair. That's one of the things that you do sometimes have to know about artists, which is why I don't want to recommend anyone I haven't seen. Because if you don't know what their set is like, you might get something different, right? For example, if I go to a Slander set, I'm not going to expect crybanging. I'm going to expect kind of some pretty aggressive music. And I had a great time. That's exactly what I expected when I went to see him at EDC 2024. And I had a great time at that set. So again, sometimes you do need to know what the artist is like live. But what I was getting to that is Slander would probably be a great set to see. I would recommend seeing Slander. But don't expect kind of the more melodic stuff. I would expect, especially with Nightmare, I would expect it to be a pretty aggressive, mostly bass set with some melodic stuff thrown in. But yeah, Slander BTB Nightmare, great set. When I saw it at Moonrise, my first Moonrise, Slander, I saw a great set at EDC. But it was definitely more base heavy. All right, cool. And that about wraps it up. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you guys thought. Let me know if you guys are going to EDC, if it's your first one, if it's your third one, if it's your 10th one, if you guys want to go in the future, things like that. Let me know what you're looking forward to. Let me know what some of your best experiences were at your EDC sets. Let me know what DJs you want to see. Let me know what you're excited for. Let me know if you have any questions, and hopefully people in the comments can also chip in if I can't. And most importantly, don't forget to have fun. But yeah, that's about it. Get excited for EDC. Don't forget to check out Airbit if you're a content creator and you want to get your hands on a beat or an instrumental. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. But other than that, that is all I have for you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.